Welcome back. The story usually begins with a man. Not because history is simple, but because sometimes a single life gives shapes to forces that are already in motion. In this case, the man is Cyrus. Later generations will call him Cyrus the Great, but at the beginning, he's not yet great. He is a ruler of a relatively small kingdom, Anshan, on the edge of larger powers. To understand what he accomplishes, you have to understand the world that he's born into. In the mid-6th century BCE, the Near East is dominated by a handful of established states. To the west there is Lydia, wealthy and confident, controlling trade routes across Anatolia. To the south, Babylon, heir to an ancient Mesopotamian tradition, a city of immense prestige and deep cultural memory. And to the north and east, the Medes, an Iranian power that has already begun to consolidate control over parts of the plateau. Cyrus begins as a vassal of the Median king, and then at some point around 550 BCE, he revolts. Details are hazy. Later sources, especially the Greek ones like Herodotus, embroider the story with prophecy and intrigue. They tell of dreams, betrayals, hidden identities. Maybe not. What matters though is the outcome. Cyrus defeats the Median king, and in doing so, he does something that is easy to miss if you only look at the surface. He doesn't destroy the Median system, he absorbs it. Median elites remain part of the new order. Administrative practices continue. What changes is not the entire structure, but who stands at the top of it. And this isn't a one-off. This pattern will repeat. Cyrus expands westward into Lydia. The Lydian king, Croesus, famous for his wealth, becomes another figure around whom stories gather. There are tales of misinterpreted oracles, of sudden reversals of fortune. Maybe not. Again, Cyrus wins. And again, he doesn't simply erase what was there before, he incorporates it. Local systems of governance remain. Existing elites are retained. What is demanded is not uniformity, but loyalty. Then comes Babylon. This is the most symbolically significant conquest of all. Babylon isn't just another city, it's one of the great centers of the ancient world, and when Cyrus enters Babylon in 539 BCE, he does so with remarkable care. The famous Cyrus cylinder, often described rather anachronistically as an early declaration of human rights, presents him not as a conqueror, but as a restorer. He claims that the previous king had disrupted the proper order and that he, Cyrus, has been chosen to set things right. He returns religious images to their temples. He allows displaced populations to go back to their homelands. This is where the earlier themes we've been tracing become visible. The language of restoration, of proper order, of legitimacy tied to something beyond force. It echoes the moral framework associated with Asher. Whether Cyrus is consciously applying Zoroastrian doctrine in a systematic way is debatable, but the alignment is clear. Power is presented not just as dominance, but as the maintenance of order. By the time Cyrus dies, his empire stretches from the Aegean coast to Central Asia. It is vast, but it's also fragile, because conquest is one thing. Holding together a territory this large, with this many different peoples, languages and traditions, well, that's something else entirely. That challenge falls to his successors. His son, Cambyses, expands the empire further by conquering Egypt, but his reign is unstable, and after his death there's a period of uncertainty. And out of that uncertainty emerges one of the most important figures in this entire story, Darius I. If Cyrus is the founder, Darius is the architect. He comes to power in a contested environment. There are revolts across the empire, multiple claimants to the throne, regions asserting independence. Darius responds with force, but also with something more systematic. He reorganizes the empire. This is where the Achaemenid state becomes something new. Darius divides the empire into satrapies, provinces governed by officials known as satraps. Each satrapy is responsible for collecting taxes, maintaining order, and supplying troops when needed. But these governors aren't independent rulers. They are monitored. There are royal inspectors, sometimes called the king's eyes and ears, who travel across the empire reporting directly to the central authority. There is a system of standardized tribute, calibrated to the resources of each region. And there is also infrastructure, the royal road stretching from Sardis in Anatolia to Susa, allowing messages to travel with remarkable speed for the time. Herodotus famously describes a relay system of mounted couriers who can carry information across vast distances in days rather than weeks. This transforms scale into something manageable. Distance is still vast. This is, after all, an empire that encompasses literally 50% of the world's population at the time. It's the world's first superpower, but it becomes governable. And then there is Persepolis. Unlike Babylon or Susa, Persepolis isn't just an administrative capital, it's ceremonial. It's where the empire represents itself. Reliefs carved into staircases show delegations from across the empire bringing tributes. Medes, Egyptians, Lydians, Indians, each identifiable by clothing, objects, and by posture, but they aren't shown as crushed enemies. They are orderly, and the message is clear. This is not an empire that erases difference. It organizes it. Each group remains itself, but all are incorporated into a larger structure. That vision of unity without uniformity is one of the defining features of the Achaemenid system. It's also one of the reasons the empire is able to endure. I mean, it's not without tension. Managing diversity requires constant negotiation. Revolts do happen. Regions do push back. The balance between central authority and local autonomy is never entirely stable. And beyond the empire's borders, there are other powers watching. To the west, the Greek world begins to come into conflict with Persian expansion. The Greco-Persian Wars, Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis become central to Greek historical memory. From the Greek perspective, this is a struggle between freedom and tyranny. From the Persian perspective, it's the defense and extension of an imperial system that already encompasses multiple forms of governance. Contrast between these perspectives is important because it reminds us that empires aren't just political entities. They are also stories, ways of explaining power, of explaining legitimacy and identity. For the Persians, kingship is tied to order. Darius, in his inscriptions, repeatedly emphasizes truth. He describes himself as a follower of Asha and condemns his opponents as followers of the lie. This isn't propaganda in the modern sense alone. It reflects a genuine integration of moral language into political authority. To rule is to uphold a structure that is both administrative and ethical. And yet, despite all this sophistication, the empire is not permanent. In the late 4th century BCE, a new force emerges from the west, Alexander of Macedon. His campaign is fast, aggressive, and in many ways opportunistic. He takes advantage of internal weaknesses within the Persian system, succession disputes, regional instability, and one by one, the great centers fall. Darius III, the last Achaemenid king, is defeated. And with that, the empire, at least in its political form, comes to an end. Persepolis is burned. Whether intentionally or not is still debated, but either way, the ceremonial heart of the empire is in flames. Now, it's tempting to see this as a clean break, as the end of Persia. But if the previous episodes have shown us anything, it's that the Iranian civilization doesn't end easily. Structures collapse, but ideas persist. Administrative practices, artistic forms, and even elements of imperial ideology survive and are adapted by those who come after. Alexander himself adopts aspects of Persian court ritual. His successors, the Seleucids, rule over much of the same territory, often relying on existing systems. And within Iran itself, new powers will emerge that draw on both older traditions and recent experiences. The Achaemenid Empire doesn't vanish, it just becomes another layer, another addition to the long accumulation that we've been tracing. But what it leaves behind isn't just a memory of power, but a model, an example of how to govern diversity at scale, of how political authority can be tied to moral language, and how a civilization shaped by both movement and settlement can produce something that holds together, even if only for a time. In the next episode, that model will be tested, because after Alexander, Iran doesn't return to what it was before, it enters a new phase, caught between external pressures and internal reinvention. The Parthians will revive older, more mobile traditions of power. The Sasanians will attempt something closer to centralized control with a renewed emphasis on religion and state. And between them, Iran will once again redefine itself, not by starting over, but by reshaping what it already is. Join me for that, but for now, have a great day.